perhaps the last teaching meeting we are having. So we may meet again for clearing some doubts or these kind of things, but formal teaching I will close today. Okay, so we are discussing few things about bandwidth, and then I will come to that VYF question. So yeah, this we have discussed. So did you understand this point what I was trying to make?
Yes,
what
sir.
does this frequency correspond to? For example, I have taken this Fourier series problem. So you may see what happens. So is this screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, sir. It is visual, but it is blurry, sir. Means not clear.
No, no. What is not clear? Screen is there, right?
Yes, sir. Screen is there.
Yes, the screen is there.
Okay. So maybe I can increase the font size. Okay, let us see. So here what I have is a square wave, and I'm trying to reconstruct that square wave through the sinusoids. So as of now, I'm taking only first 5 because even harmonics are not there. So which means odd harmonics up to 5th harmonic. So we will see how it is getting reconstructed. This is visible to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we have the square wave, and here we have the harmonics added only up to 5th. So we can see the gap between the sharp actual waveform and our reconstructed waveform. So difference is very, very clear. Now, as we go on increasing the number of harmonics in the reconstruction, for example, if I go to 51st harmonic, the difference will become much lesser. Now you see the difference, what it was earlier. This is going up to 51st harmonic. If you go to 500s, and I am adding only odd harmonics, that you have to consider. You see how close this is now. Except some disturbances at the corner, the reconstructed waveform more or less matches. Now we can see the response time. See, this is what I am calling how fast it is going close to our given reference value. Understanding my point? So this is what the bandwidth signifies. Now if I go to, let's say, 5,000 or 50,000, the two waveforms will become almost same. So the disturbances will become much lesser, and the response time for reaching the given value will be much lesser. Now you need to see that it has gone within some 0.5 millisecond or some 0.1 millisecond. Understanding my point? Are you understanding my point? So this is what happens when we increase our bandwidth. Similar thing, similar phenomena happens. The more frequency span we are encompassing, the more better we will be, or more closer we will be to the step response. More faster we will be in tracking that. Understanding my point? Understanding my point? I have given the definition of the bandwidth, that our value reduces from maximum by minus 3 dB. So that frequency we are calling as our bandwidth. Why minus 3 dB we will see. But taken, if this definition is there, then the relation of this bandwidth with the physical system is this. If you increase the bandwidth, your response becomes faster, which means what? You are moving closer to this reference value much faster. This is the physical meaning. Understanding my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if, let us say, someone says that, okay, I want to have my current settled within 1 millisecond. So you have to think like what bandwidth you need to design. Generally, what we say, in 5 time constants, it matches the steady value or it matches the reference value. So 5 time constant means 1 millisecond should be divided by 5. That should be your time constant. That means inverse of that should be your bandwidth. Understanding my point, how it is relating to this settling time from the beginning to this final value is 5 time constant, 5 tau. Typically that is what is taken. So within 5 time constants, it is almost there. It is settled. So here also, whatever is the tau, but 5 times of tau is the time taken by that. So if someone says that I want my current to be settled in 1 millisecond, which means my time constant should be 1 millisecond by 5, 0.2 millisecond, which means my omega should be some 5 kilohertz or something. Is that fine? Understanding my point? So this is not kilohertz, but you should say radian per second. 5000 radian per second or 5 kilo radian per second. Understanding my point? So omega and tau are related like this. So this is true for any system. Whatever system you take, the more the bandwidth is, the faster you can settle down to your reference value. Now, why we are putting limit on bandwidth then? Why we are only going up to 1/10 of switching frequency for current control? This should be the next obvious question, isn't it? We can have infinite bandwidth. What is the problem? What is the issue if we go for infinite bandwidth? What is the problem? Yeah, someone?
So filter design.
Which filter design? Where is the filter in all this discussion? Don't just say something. Think about it why you are saying that. Where is the filter in the current control loop? So we have understood that meaning of bandwidth is our signal is changing much faster with respect to the reference. Much faster means what? It will contain more frequencies. Let us say there is one fundamental frequency which we are trying to have in the system. So our VD, VQ are DC quantities with respect to our fundamental frequency. That is fine, right? Is that fine or not? Yes or no? Are you following this point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
Okay, let me go back to this step response only then. Say, for example, the current has to follow this, right? This reference, whatever is given, let us say this is I star. And the actual current has to follow this. Now what it will do, it will generate corresponding voltage signal. Let's say it generates sharp voltage like this. It goes and settles to the final value. Understanding my point? Now the problem is, let's say this is for very high bandwidth. So this is increasing very fast. Now when you are trying to have this sudden rise in voltage, your voltage has gone up from 0 to max value within a very short span of time. So correspondingly, your modulating signal will also change according to this. This will give sharp jump in modulating signal and then it will be varying slowly. So this sudden jump will come in the modulating signal also. Understanding my point? Understanding my point or not? Yes or no?
So no.
No, sir.
Good. Okay. Let me take another example and then come to this. So what we want to understand why we are putting a cap on the value of bandwidth. Why we cannot have infinite bandwidth. That is the question, right? This is clear to all of you what we are discussing?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You may keep your mics on. There is no problem. Unless there is some noise on your side, it is all right. Now, what we are trying to do over here, that why can't we increase our bandwidth to a very high value? This is what we are trying to understand. Okay, fine. Now, let us say our reference is changing something like this. You are following this?
yes, sir.
This is okay. It can change like this. There is no problem.
Yes, sir.
And because of infinite bandwidth, our response will also exactly follow this. There won't be any delay. Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
Understanding my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, in order to have such sharp current rise, ultimately you are having RL circuit, right? Now, to have this sharp rise in current, what you need to have here on the voltage side? Almost instantaneous jump in current. So which means our voltage will go where? Say something. You may ignore this part. Now to have sudden jump from here to here, that means delta T is almost zero. So what should be your voltage to have that? What should be your voltage? Say something. Within no time, if my current is jumping from one value to another value in an inductive circuit, what should be my voltage over here?
So very high, sir.
Very high. That is what. So, can my system generate this voltage? First question is that. Can it generate so much voltage?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir. Means ideally,
What
sir,
can
it is in.
generate?
Sir, up to some rated value or
Up to whatever is the rated value. Now, if you are
Rated
applying
value.
rated value, let's say V rated you have applied. So what will happen? Your current will only follow this third line, the blue line. Understanding my point? So for a
Yes,
physical system, we cannot achieve this infinite bandwidth. We cannot have, because our system cannot respond according to that. Even if you do, let's say theoretically you have made infinite bandwidth, your system will not respond. It has limits on what is the voltage there available for the RL circuit. Understanding my point? This is one
Yes,
point
sir.
you understood what we can have. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
this is first point. This is not the only reason. This is the first point. We have restrictions over there, what we can have at the most. Now, the second reason is when we are saying that we have so much of bandwidth, this is also related to our disturbance rejection. So if any disturbance comes within this bandwidth frequency, let us say some noise or any kind of disturbance coming inside the system and which is falling within the bandwidth, so we will be able to nullify that. Understanding my point? Okay, let me take another point of view, then perhaps that will be also be clear. Okay, so once this point is clear, now what I want, let us say, I want to generate some reference I want to follow, and I want to generate current which is tracking it in a very low, with a very low time constant. So this is how it is. Now correspondingly it is generating some VDVQ that we have seen how it is coming. So now the change I am talking about, see, this is our modulating signal, let us say MR. Now what we are doing, we are comparing it with a high frequency carrier. Is that all right for all of you?
Yes, sir.
This is what
Yes, sir.
ultimately we are doing. This is how we are generating our waveform. Now what happens when we have this triangular carrier and modulating signal? What do we say? That whenever our carrier frequency is very high than our fundamental frequency, Fs let us say, then the output voltage VRO has very good spectrum, which means what? It will have a fundamental and then some harmonic band which is separated by a good amount, good frequency difference. Is that fine? This is the harmonic spectrum for our, or frequency spectrum for our voltage VRO. This is fine, right? So VRO will have some high value and then harmonics are there. Correct? Now, when we start increasing our fundamental frequency without changing our carrier frequency. Now point, you understand very clearly what I am doing. I am increasing my fundamental frequency while keeping my carrier frequency same. So this green waveform, let's say, has much higher frequency compared to the fundamental frequency in blue, or the blue waveform. Clear? Now what will happen once your F carrier starts coming closer to the fundamental frequency? What will happen? This all will start getting mixed up. This we have seen, right, in case of sine triangle.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We have seen, right, how the
Yes, sir.
waveform gets deformed. So beyond this, let's say the limit of pulse number less than 9, we start seeing all the mix up. Let's say our ripple will not follow our standard rule. Our frequencies will be closer to our fundamental, these kind of things. This we have seen, right?
Yes, sir.
That is fine or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Fine.
This we have seen from the PWM point of view. Now I'll try to correlate this with our bandwidth. Now let us say I am giving you another situation. You have option to generate a frequency component, let's say F, using a carrier frequency FCRR. So what limit you will put on F if you are given a carrier frequency of FCRR? What would be the limit on F?
So minimum limit there is a minimum limit, means maximum limit is means more very for bigger than this.
So for generating a good PWM waveform, good means this kind of a spectrum, where we need not worry about these separate frequency bands or harmonic bands. For generating this kind of frequency band or that kind of waveform, what should my F be with respect to FCRR?
Uh, 1 by 21 times.
Correct. 1 by 21 is one limit. So FCRR by F, this should be greater than 21. This is what we say. Correct? Correct or not?
Yes.
In worst case, we have
Yes,
seen that even for pulse number 9, which means FCRR by F, to an extent we are okay. There is no problem. It's not so good as 21, but it is all right. It's not so bad as well. Understanding my point? So which means we are putting a cap on our frequency, what is there in the modulating signal with respect to our carrier frequency. Something like this. Understanding my point? What I'm trying to say over here? If we have any frequency higher than this F carrier by 9, we will be hampering the quality of our waveform. That we understand. The moment we say that we have 5 kilohertz of switching frequency or carrier frequency, we say like if the fundamental frequency is going beyond 5 kilohertz by 9, then there is some problem. Our quality will go down. You understand this point? Understand, right? Yes or
yes,
no?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, which means my modulating signal, okay. See, this is the problem. Every time I need to draw in this. This is your fundamental frequency. Now, if this frequency is comparable to your carrier, something like this, obviously the quality of waveform is going to be bad. So another word to say is if the rate of rise of my fundamental modulating signal or rate of rise of my modulating signal is comparable to rate of rise of my carrier, then we cannot differentiate or we cannot generate those frequencies very accurately in the VRO spectrum. Do you understand this statement? Yes or no? This is little,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
little critical statement which I am making. See, okay, from this example itself, let me show you. We have only fundamental and third harmonic getting added over here. There is some rate of rise of this signal. Correct? Now, if I increase this number to let us say 15, then rate of rise of this waveform is going much faster. You see this point? Correct. So this
Yes.
is what we say when we are comparing with the carrier, that this rate of rise of this signal, if it is going comparable to the carrier, the generation of the output waveform will not have very accurate representation of this frequency. Up to first, third, fifth, it is all right. But the moment you go and try to generate some hundreds harmonic in that VRO waveform, the magnitude may not be very accurate what you want. The reason being that we have limitation of what we can generate using this particular carrier frequency. The limit is this 9 times. Understanding my point? Now, how this is related to bandwidth? when I say that my signal is tracking very perfectly the reference. In other words, what I'm saying that I have increased my input very sharply. Then only it can follow it very closely, right? The rate of rise of my input is very sharp. Next time again it changes its value. This is also changing very fast. Understanding my point? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
these things, these changes, this derivative or this slope, this is what I'm talking about. This will also reflect in your modulating signals, isn't it? Ultimately, VD, VQ will go in form of MR, MY, MB. What you can generate from this MR, MY, MB depends on what frequencies does these waveform contain. Is that clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir.
Understanding my
Yes,
point?
sir.
So we have to put a cap on what we have to respond to. We are, see, when we are taking feedback and we have the reference. So no hurry. If you are not understanding, tell clearly. I can go for another method of telling the same thing. Now, understand, when we are having a system, if this is my reference, feedback, if you take your IQ or ID feedback, it will not only have the DC value, but will also have the ripple component. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Because we are switching. Our current
Yes,
line
sir.
current is having ripple, and so our ID IQ will also have ripple. Now, if you are comparing this reference and ripple over here, I feedback, how this I error will look like? I error will look like something like this in steady state. Understanding my point? Now, when this is my I error, can I correct that also through the closed loop control? This is obviously some non-zero error, right? What is coming? Can I correct that also? Do I have the freedom to do? This is what I was trying to say earlier. I have taken care of the DC value. The DC value is matching. Error has come to this level. This is 0. But now it has some ripple component, which is also there in this, my measured value. Can I correct that using my bandwidth? Can
Yes,
I
sir.
remove this error?
Yes, sir.
Can I remove?
Yes.
Or no? Hmm? So then
But
the question to ask ourselves is, what is the frequency involved with this error? At what frequency this is occurring? Somebody?
So switching frequency.
Yes. This is occurring at your switching frequency. Now tell me, can I correct my this error which is occurring at switching frequency? Using the same modulating signal and the carrier? Can I correct that? Yes or no? Huh?
No,
The
sir.
limitation you have to understand with respect to physical system, from where this ripple is generated or why this ripple is generated. Because of PWM. Understanding
Yes,
my
sir.
point?
Yes, sir.
Because of PWM of what frequency? FSW frequency. Because of this only it is getting generated. So can I correct this again with the same frequency?
No, no, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. Because if corresponding to this error, my VD/VQ also start containing this kind of component to correct that, will I be able to generate these components using this carrier frequency? No, because this is same as my carrier frequency. I cannot generate the same equal frequency, right? Understanding my point? This is where this limit comes. What you are saying, 21 or 9 or whatever. It should be at least 10 times lower than my carrier frequency. Understanding my point now? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then what to do with this? What to do with this then? So this is where we go by limited bandwidth, which means what? What is the meaning of limited bandwidth? That I will worry about any noise, any disturbance which is coming within this frequency band. If that noise or frequency band is crossing that limit, I will not worry about it. I will simply leave it because I cannot control. There is a restriction on my physical system. So if this is my reference, I will track. If reference is changing somewhere, again some constant value, I will track. Even if the reference is going with a slow variable, this kind of magnitude, I will track. But the moment it starts going beyond my reach, beyond my bandwidth, I will leave that. I will not worry about it. So how much I can worry? That is this bandwidth is suggesting. How much I can worry? I can worry only f switching by 10. Beyond that, I cannot do anything. I can do everything within this capacity only. I cannot generate any frequency beyond this limit. Understand my point? Yes or no? Manshu? You keep your videos on, don't turn it off. Yes, Himanshu, tell.
Sir, not getting sir 100%.
Yeah, because you did not hear 100%. Vijeta?
Yes, sir. Sir, but I have to go through it once again, sir. Not very much
You
clear.
ask now. You ask now. Vishal, ask now. What is there?
Yes.
Later on, you can go through once again on your own. That is different thing. But doubt you ask again. What is the doubt now? Tell Vijeta.
So right now I don't have any doubt, but so it is little bit. I got that how we are deciding the bandwidth, but just need to go through it once again, sir,
Okay.
for my own clarity. Right now I don't
Okay.
have any doubt.
Okay. Okay. Vishal?
Sir, I can't understand last part, sir. As switching by 10.
Ha. Ashutosh?
Yes, sir. I have also doubt, sir. Why switching frequency is not decreases, sir? Means if we decrease switching frequency, or
We
if
should
by
decrease switching frequency.
yes, sir.
So what that will do?
Ripple. If we want to decrease the ripple,
So if you reduce the switching frequency, ripple will reduce.
no, sir. Means if this variation, sir, means is become less, sir. Means then ripple will be decreases, I think. Means makes so there is no other method to decrease ripple.
This is what is interesting, no? You are now dealing with a physical system. What physical system is? Now you see what you are doing. You have a reference. You have a feedback. You are having controller. You are having the converter and the plant. And then you are generating this current. Which feedback you are taking? You have DC reference given over here. but what you are generating actually is not DC. It is something like this. Now the same thing, if you are taking back and feeding to the controller will always have this I error given as this, even when you are tracking the DC value. So what will happen if this is your I error, your VD, VQ, whatever voltage is there, that will also contain this because it responds to the error. Your output is what? Kp into I error plus Ki integral of I error dt. This is all you have. So Kp into I error, this itself will give this component. Understanding my point? Now if this voltage goes to your converter, then converter is again introducing some more ripple on that and giving output on the current, and this is going in loop. You are understanding my point? What ripple you have generated, ultimately it is not seeing any end. It is only going in the loop. It's sitting everywhere. Now on your modulating signal also, and then coming out on the current also, on the feedback also. So what to do?
Sir, we impose any band?
We impose any?
Sir, means error band, sir, actually. Just like
What?
Just like tracking, sir, means if
No, a little louder. I am not able to hear.
sir, if we impose any band, sir, band limit.
What is band limit?
Sir, means just tracking of purely sine wave. Then the limit which we impose is plus minus sine curve, sir. Means it.
Don't go into hysteresis control.
Yes,
we are
sir,
not
that's
discussing that.
sir, just like that, sir. We impose any
we can, but
band.
here our controllers are linear. We are not having switched controller. In case of hysteresis, what we have, we give command to switches directly. There is no modulating signal, these kind of thing. We are giving command to the switches. Here we are trying to generate a linear voltage reference, which this system will follow. Hysteresis has its own problems, own advantages. That is different. So what limit we should impose? This is where I am saying this ripple content, all this or this particular frequency is beyond control. We cannot do anything. This is generated on account of the system itself, the switching frequency of the converter. So we need not worry about it. Leave it. Let it be there. It will be there. Any power electronics converter is there. It will have ripple in the current. Understanding my point? So what we say that our controller should respond to anything which is less than 1/10 of the switching frequency and not this fast switching variable or whatever switching component. Sometimes what may happen, you may get some disturbance somewhere and your error may become like this, some slow varying, and on top of that some ripple is sitting, switching ripple. We will not worry about this switching ripple, but we will compensate for what this unnecessary error has come, this low frequency error has come. Understanding my point? We will not respond or we will not react to this switching ripple, but we will react to what is this slow varying error. This is the meaning of bandwidth, because we cannot do anything beyond our limit, beyond our reach. We have only so much of capacity what we can work, so we will work only that much. So then we can increase our capacity, increase the switching frequency. But again, for that switching frequency also you will have some limit, and this is the limit. That is why we have the bandwidth as 1/10 of switching frequency, because beyond that is not under our control in linear control system. Now this is clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gopal?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Naveen?
Sir,
Yes.
Yes, Samir.
sir, this value f, the switching frequency by 10, is it taken empirically, like means to what extent we can tolerate the means variation in the current?
Yeah, actually, what you can do, this is some typical value. It's not the hard and fast limit that you have to follow this only. Sometimes people reduce to 1/5 of switching frequency also. I mean, increase the bandwidth to this also. 1/5 of switching frequency. That is also okay. But you have to decide what your system can take. If you are increasing your bandwidth up to this, you have to ensure that you do not respond to these ripples. You have to ensure that point. Then you can increase little bit, but in any case, you cannot be comparable to your switching frequency. Your bandwidth cannot be comparable. It cannot be just 2 times or maybe equal to your switching frequency. This cannot happen. Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
So some relaxation is there, 1/10, 1/8, 1/5, but that's all. Not too much of this thing, stretching that. You will start seeing deformations on your modulating signal and on your current also, which will go beyond your control. So that is why we say that, okay, we respond to something which is falling within this limit, FSW by 10. So that is why we have this limit given for our controller, and this now I relate here on the Bode plot. So that is what I say, whichever frequency component falls within this band, that is my reach. Beyond that, I will leave it. Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Now another question, why this -3 dB? Why this is the the bandwidth? These questions now we can see. Okay, there are a lot many questions. This subject is vast. So that is why I say this is kind of complete engineering. You have control also, you have power electronics also, you have to do a lot of coding also in this when you are dealing with your controller boards and all, lot of electronics involved, sensors and all these things. And then you have mechanical issues also to deal with. So kind of all the aspects of engineering you are touching in this domain, in motor drives or any other power electronics domain. Electrical system you have to understand. Getting my point? So now let us understand this phenomena of 3 dB. Yes, Ashutosh? Anything?
No, sir.
Now this
No, sir.
this is interesting. Why we are saying -3 dB only? What is the meaning of that? We say like our bandwidth is the frequency at which our gain drops by -3 dB. This is what we say. If you go on digging about the definition of bandwidth, sometimes they will say this is the point where our power gets reduced to half. So this is called half power frequency. Or sometimes they will say that the magnitude of the quantity has reduced to 1/√2. All these are different definitions. So let's say your current is reduced by 1/√2. Or gain is reduced by -3 dB. This is all same. Understanding my point? When we say half power, what is exactly power? See, whether this could be a current or voltage, something like that. You have I square R or V square by R. Now, half power means what? Your current will become √2 times of your original value, the maximum value. Understanding my point? Now, in terms of dB, if you write 20 log I is equal to what? 20 log of I by I naught, that is the original value, by √2. Now, if you compute at what frequency this value 20 log I reduces by 3 dB, which means this is what is 3 dB. This value 20 log √2 is actually 3 approximately. So our current value or gain value or whatever you say, that has reduced from the original by 3 dB. And that is where it will have 1 by root 2 value. And that is where it will have half power. 50% power. Different definitions are given. Understanding my point? So all these are related like this. All this is related like this. So this is where we say now 20 log of I minus 20 log of I naught, which means the actual value minus the original value is minus 3 dB. So this happens at our bandwidth frequency. Beyond that, it reduces further. That is a different issue. But this is where we call that, okay, we have reached our bandwidth limit. This frequency must be called as our bandwidth. Understanding my point? Clear, Himanshu? What is bandwidth?
Yes, sir.
Now coming to the open loop and closed loop system. So you understood that reduction should be by 3 dB. That is fine to all of you, right? Now,
Yes, sir.
any of our control loop systems, we have open loop transfer function, we have closed loop transfer function. Your closed loop transfer function is written as open loop plus this 1 by 1 plus open loop, or you can also write it like 1 plus 1 by GOL. Understanding my point? Now what I am saying, at omega bandwidth, my open loop gain is 1, crossing the 0 dB line. Isn't it? Is it not? Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is what we are saying.
Yes,
No?
sir.
When our open loop is crossing this 0 dB line, that is our bandwidth. We have been calling like that. Now, at 0 dB line, this has value 1. Means what? Your closed loop gain is how much? 1 by root of 1 plus GOL square, which is what? 1 by root 2, which is what? Your 3 dB reduction. Is it not? Now these
Yes,
two
sir.
are related. Open loop zero crossing and the closed loop bandwidth. These two are related, fine. If
Yes, sir.
you plot on the same semi-log graph paper, the open loop and closed loop plots, how it will look. We can draw it by, let us say, if this is my, generally let us say this closed loop control only we are doing. So if this is coming like this, minus 20 dB per decade, my closed loop bandwidth will be something like, this is 0 dB line and then falling like this, asymptotic Bode plot. So my actual closed loop band, this plot will be something like this. So this is the 3 dB difference. Now you understood this is my GOL, this is my GCL. So which is why we say that the zero crossing of this open loop is my actual bandwidth for the closed loop. I once again write 1 plus 1 by GOL. When GOL is very small, frequency is very small, GOL is very large, which means 1 by GOL is very small. So GCL is effectively 1, 0 dB. The moment GOL comes down to 1, this starts becoming significant and it has some other value other than 1, other than 0. Clear? All these things are related now.
Yes.
So we have discussed lot of control, lot of power electronics, lot of PWM, lot of power converter. Now is that clear or not?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
tomorrow you are giving the seminar and if I ask you some question within this, Don't say that I don't know, please. Okay, because this students take this liberty very often. I don't know, sir. Then you cannot force me to talk anything. Okay, so if you are giving your first year MTech seminar or any time PhD seminar or something, and you say, sir, I don't know, then I will catch you immediately. So better ask now if you still not clear. So this is vast. Whatever we are doing, this motor drive section, this is vast. So far, only direct vector control we have seen. Sensorless, maybe we will touch now for a brief time, and then let us see what we can do further. Now the question.
Sir?
Yeah. Yes, Himanshu.
Sir, for first order system, we can, sir, clearly seen that the bandwidth is equals to gain crossover frequency always.
Yes.
And sir, for multi-order system, sir, how can
You prove it.
now?
You prove it. Some things you should also do right. Why you want me to do all the work? Ashutosh is smiling. You do it, you prove it. At least something you can do right as my student. Some things I have told you, some things now you can do. But
Yes.
take it for granted that it is correct. It is correct. There is no doubt in that. Whatever we
Okay.
have discussed so far, it is applicable for first order as well as multi-order system.
Sir, but for multi-order system, sir, it can intersect the 0 dB line for more than one time. So, sir, then how can?
More than what?
Sir, for more than one time, it can intersect the 0 dB line.
Yeah, it can intersect. So what is the problem? So we have bandwidth given as the difference from one minus 3 dB reduction to another minus 3 dB reduction. So for second order system, we have response like this, right? So we give bandwidth like this from here to here.
Okay, sir.
Okay. That is why I am saying little bit explore yourself also. Don't ask for the sake of asking. Fine.
Yes.
Okay. What else then? Enough discussion we have done actually. Our all lectures are like having heavy loaded content. So you have to go through it again and again and again to understand. Lot of things are coming out here out of experience. So many things you will not find in textbooks and all, because people generally don't write all these things. These are learned through experience or maybe in classroom system like this. So where once you experience that, then you understand, yes, this is what was meant by this statement. Understanding my point?
Yes.
Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
now coming to the question. Do we have V by F in our vector control or do we not have? If don't, then why not? If yes, then how? Who will tell?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, V by F control is basically for keeping the flux constant. And we are doing in vector control, the flux control loop is there. We are controlling IMR. So I think means there is V by F control in this.
Okay, so Samir thinks there is V by F control within vector control. How many of you agree with that?
Yes. Sir,
Yes,
I
sir.
agree, sir.
We agree with.
We agree. Why? Because you don't have any other answer.
Sir, we have so Gopal.
Sir, because we are fixing IMR. That
So what happened then? How are we ensuring V by F? If you are
Sir,
fixing IM,
Sir, V by F is basically the we are fixing the flux by V by F control, and IMR we are fixing here in vector control. It means that we are fixing the flux value.
okay. Now how many of you are confident?
Sir,
Who all agree with Gopal and Samir?
Yes.
agree means in answer, sir, V by F control method is applicable in vector control.
No, say again, Ashutosh, not audible.
Sir, V by F method is applicable in vector control also, sir. Means it is.
No, I'm not asking about applicable. I'm asking, are we following V by F or not? Do we have V by F in vector control or do
Yes,
we
sir.
not follow? How?
Sir, if we means, sir, if we split only voltage in different coordinates, sir, and 5 marks, sir. Not say.
Yes. Now let us see. And if now someone leaves the class, then minus 10 marks. Tell. So everybody minus 5 marks. Not saying anything.
Sir, we agree with vector control is possible in vector control approach, sir. Sir, because vector control is a flux-oriented, field-oriented control, sir. Voltage applied to stator is proportional to flux and frequency, sir.
Okay. I want to hear all of you, not just one or two people. What happened? Alhaj, Himanshu, Pooja, Vijeta, Naveen.
Hello, sir.
Rajesh. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, frequency we can control, but with respect to voltage, we can not directly control.
So what do we do?
So V by F is not constant, sir.
V by F is not constant. Okay, we have another response. Who else? Pranjal, Rajesh, Vijeta, Vishal. Vishal is done. Who else is there? Alhaj, Usman, Pooja. Speak quickly. Something you should say. Keeping silent, again, you know what are the consequences. Someone sleeping minus 20 marks. Rajesh, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good. You just saved your 20 marks. So say, what is the response?
Yes, sir. VYF control is possible in vector control.
No, I am not asking about possibility, Rajesh. I am asking about whether it is there or not. Do we follow V by F or do we not? Confused. Pooja?
Sir, I have also the same opinion. Like if IMR, we are controlling IMR, from there we are controlling flux, and so VYF is also maintained.
Okay, so same response. Pranjal?
VYFs are there, is there, sir, VYF control.
Yes or no? What?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what? Okay, so Vijita, any response?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think that in vector control we are maintaining the flux, but sir, I'm not sure about that whether we are getting V by F ratio constant as a constant or not. So
it is true what Gopal has suggested and what Vishal has said, and one more person, Samir. Yeah, actually Samir said that first. So it is true. See, meaning of V by F is we are keeping our flux constant. Why I am asking these questions? Because same thing I have asked to your seniors in the previous semester during their seminar, even another instance also, and they were all clueless whether V by F is there in vector control or not. What is the meaning of V by F? What is the meaning of vector control? Even that they were not sure. So then that is why I had to bring this intentionally here. Yes, we are maintaining flux ultimately by keeping V by F constant. And this is true reverse way also. You understand that if V by F, maintaining V by F equal to constant implies that your flux is constant. Then the reverse is also true, which means if you keep your flux constant, which means your V by F will be maintained as a constant. This thing is vice versa true. If you maintain V by F, flux will remain constant. If you maintain flux constant, your V by F will remain constant. Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
V is nothing but some constant times of frequency into the flux. These are related like this, and there is some meaning in this relation. This is not one-way relation. If you maintain any ratio as constant, which means you are maintaining other quantity constant, which is vice versa true as well. So good, Samir. Very nice observation. So this is what we have in vector control. We are inherently having the V by F control in that. We need not worry whether our V by F is maintained or not. The moment you say flux constant, IMR is taken to some value, done. V by F is maintained. Now if you start your machine and you see the response of the modulating signal, your modulating signal will start from low value and then increase slowly. Something like that it will go. So this is your V by F. Up to the rated frequency, it will increase in magnitude and it will reduce its time period. Understanding my point?
Yes, sir.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So never ever say that I don't know, I am not sure. You think about it and then you respond to that. Now, let me quickly just sweep through the indirect vector control. This is also called sensorless vector control. By sensorless, what we mean that we are removing our speed sensor. Which means what? We have to estimate our omega synchronous, omega slip and omega rotor. We have to estimate this on basis of what? On basis of current and voltage what we are sensing. That is all. That is all the meaning of this sensorless vector control. Now, how do we do? How do we estimate? So firstly, let us understand some basics. Let's say if there is any vector in our stationary alpha beta reference frame, any vector, let us say I call it psi. I am not saying whether rotor or stator flux, any vector. So the components, what it will be making with these axes, so this we can write as psi alpha, which will be some psi m cos of this angle. Let us say I call it theta, cos theta, and psi beta will be psi m sin theta. Understanding my point? Clear? Now, if I know these two values, somehow let us say I know my psi alpha and psi beta, I can, or somehow, yes, that is true. Okay. So somehow if I know my psi alpha and psi beta, I have to get these unit vectors first, the sin theta, cos theta. Why? Because for transformation to dq and all these things, we need this unit vector actually, sin theta, cos theta. Is it not? Now we don't have omega measured, so integral equal to theta, this possibility is not there. We have to get our sin theta, cos theta unit vectors from the estimated flux or any value. So let us say somehow we have this alpha beta component. So then this is represented like this. Then simply what we can say, our cos theta is nothing but psi alpha by square root of psi alpha square plus psi beta square. And similarly sin theta is nothing but whatever psi beta I have, root of psi alpha square plus psi beta square. Is it not? So my problem now only is to get psi alpha and psi beta. This thing is obtained, but only unit vector is obtained, which means you can transform to dq, but you have to do the speed control also, which means you need omega, the rotor speed you need. So first let us try to get the synchronous speed, omega s. How can you get synchronous speed? We know that d theta by dt is omega s. Understanding my point? So again, a very simple thing what you need to do. If you take derivative of cos theta, what it will be? What is derivative of cos theta?
Minus sin theta.
With respect to what?
Minus sin theta into synchronous speed, sir.
D theta by dt.
So whenever someone asks what is derivative of something, first question you have to ask with respect to what? Here we are doing with respect to time. So then we will have this factor sitting over here, sin theta into d theta by dt. Now similarly, if we have derivative of sin theta with respect to time, what we will get? Cos theta d theta by dt. Fine. Now these two equations, let us say first and second, if you do one simple thing, what you do? You multiply second by cos theta and you subtract the first one multiplied by sin theta. So what will happen? If you multiply second by cos theta and subtract first multiplied by sin theta, what will happen? What will be the resultant?
Omega s.
Isn't it? So which means if you have to get omega, which is d theta by dt with respect to, omega, then you need to do this simple computation, which is cos theta times of derivative of sin theta minus sin theta into derivative of cos theta. That is all. You have both the signals now from the previous vector. So now if you do this computation, you have omega synchronous available for you. Understanding my point? So from any given vector, what we did, first we got our unit vector sin theta cos theta. Then once we have sin theta cos theta, we can do our dq transformation, but we also need the omega feedback for the rotor. So for that we want to have first this synchronous speed. Now slip speed we know because we will be able to do transformation. So we know our IQ, IMR, all these things, and so our slip speed can be computed. And then our rotor speed can be computed by simply subtracting this. And because you are doing control, so it should be mechanical. So here we will have to multiply by 2 by P. Correct? You have received your information, whatever you needed. But this is only the beginning. So far you do not know how this quantity psi you have got, psi alpha and psi beta. You don't know this. If you know this, you have all the things, but you don't know this itself. Understanding my point? So the task comes down to estimating your rotor flux, because it is that reference frame in which you are doing all the things. So what we have to do, we have to estimate our psi r alpha and psi r beta. If we have this, then getting sin theta cos theta or sin rho cos rho, if that is the angle associated with that, and omega r mechanical, this is all easy. So again, let's go back to our this per phase equivalent circuit. We have seen that what is our psi s. Now everything is in stator reference frame, so we need not worry about the superscripts or subscripts. So psi s is simply what? Ls is plus Lm IR, and our psi r is nothing but Lr IR plus Lm is. So these two equations if you use and remove the rotor current from this, you will get relation between psi r and psi s. So what that will be? I am writing the direct expression because it is enough discussion we have done. You may derive it on your own. So okay, let me write this also in simplified form. This is how you can get your rotor flux if you know your stator flux and the current. Am I clear? This is all we are doing to estimate what? Our speed. For knowing the speed, what we should have? We should have sin theta cos theta unit vectors. For knowing sin theta cos theta, what we should have? We should have the quantity in which the reference frame is defined. So rotor flux. Now for rotor flux, what we should know? This IS, because IS is measured. There is no problem with IS. The problem is psi s, and you can very simply write psi r alpha is equal to psi s alpha minus sigma ls is alpha. And similarly the beta component also. There is no complexity in that. No transformation required, nothing. Now the thing is, we have to estimate our psi s in the alpha or beta, in the alpha beta reference frame. So taking only this half circuit, what we have LLS and LM. So basically the flux is nothing but the integral of this error voltage across this, or integral of the voltage across this reactance what is there, isn't it? Flux is simple integration of what is applied across this inductance total. So psi s alpha, I will say Es alpha dt, that is all. Now what is IS alpha, sorry, what is ES alpha? That is nothing but your Vs alpha minus IS alpha Rs dt, that's all. So you have Vs over here, current you know what is flowing, and what is the stator resistance. So you can subtract and integrate that to get your psi s alpha. And similarly, psi s beta can be obtained by Vs beta minus Is beta Rs into dt. That's all. Nothing much to do. Very simple. So in terms of block diagram, if I have to write, maybe 5 more minutes it will take. We have our Vs alpha. We subtract Rs times of Is alpha. Then we integrate, get our psi s alpha. This, if you go to previous expression, we are subtracting sigma ls times of is, and then we are putting this lr by lm, and we are getting our psi r alpha. This is the whole block diagram for getting psi r alpha from your Vs and Is. That's all. Rotor flux. Understanding my point? Any problem in that?
No, sir.
So this is how we estimate our flux. Firstly, the rotor flux, then our unit vector, and then our omega. So all these things can be followed sequentially. Now there is a problem when we are using this simple integrator over here. Sometimes what may happen that if, because all these things are measured outside your system, so a small DC offset could be there in any of these quantity. That is inevitable. You cannot have perfect measurement. So what will happen, any small DC quantity, if it is passing through the integrator, it will keep on integrating that. And your signal, what should have been sinusoidal, it will become like this. So it will be flying away somewhere. So to solve this problem, one simple arrangement what we can do, I will not go into other methods, but one simple solution for this problem, because this is very, very common issue. You cannot run your machine with pure integrator like this. You put a small corner frequency in this filter instead of 0, that's all. Now even if you feed this, your psi s alpha will come out perfectly. So whatever DC offset or something is coming, this will damp it down. Some kind of damping effect you have introduced. And this omega c could be somewhere like, let us say, much lesser than your, again, flux bandwidth, this thing. So somewhere, or in general, what we say, let us not go into that complexity. You take omega c, something between 2 Hz to 5 Hz. That's all. Without any thinking, you can take this value. That's all. Of course, there are ways to design this and make it perfect. That is all there. But this value is kind of okay. Your system will work fine with this. So as thumb rule, you can consider this. So this is what we can do. So again, now we can draw the complete block diagram for our psi r alpha. That is all. Estimation of rotor flux. I am not going into the limitations of this. I am not going into the problems associated with this or how to solve. That is all there. It's a long story. We can go on discussing. But up to this, it is fine. Your decent motor size you can control with this without any problem. Understanding my point? Good. So this is what is actually called as sensorless. When we are doing sensorless, we are estimating our desired quantity. Estimation of psi r alpha and psi r beta. This is the meaning of sensorless. And then we generate our omega, our sine rho, cos rho, all this, and then we do all our computations similar to our direct field oriented control or direct vector control. There is no difference other than this. Understanding my point? So you get rid of the burden of this sensor, speed sensor, when you go for sensorless vector control. Speed sensor sometimes may malfunction and it is sitting outside the machine, on the machine, so a lot of noise can come, and then maintenance may be difficult. Sometimes the structure also gets bulky because of that. So all these complexities we can remove by just having the sensorless vector control or estimating our speed. Clear? So advantages you understood?
Yes.
Fine. Okay. So now if you have any questions, we can ask, we can discuss, and then I think this is enough. We have discussed a lot of motor drives. So honestly, if you think about, like, before starting this semester, what was your understanding about vector control and motor drive and all that, and now what your understanding is, if you find some difference, then yes, this teaching has been successful. We have learned something about the system, then power electronics, then motor, then mechanical system, then machine modeling, and then the control. So if something you have got from there, the PWM and all that, then yes, this class has been a successful one. So what do you feel? Some difference is there from what you had the understanding some 4 months back or 3 months back?
Definitely, sir.
Yes, sir. Obviously, sir.